right there. All right now, getting it together. All right. Getting there. 3, 2. What happens if I push this button? Hey, it worked. Look at that. Just a series of restarts. That's just how your morning goes sometimes. How are you? Good to see you. It's a Funky Tech Monday. Welcome to Funky Tech Monday. That's what I'm going to call it. Not just for me, but because this morning we had a little family errand based on the idea that some people have key fobs for their cars that don't have an actual key, and those are adventures because the battery never runs out on a physical key. That's one of the things, but it can run out on a fobby fob, and that's it's a curious aspect of things. I feel like there should be some sort of Fonzie way to get into a car and get it started if the fob doesn't work, that you have to set up when you get to the dealership, where you just like kick the fender, rub your hand around the tire twice, that kind of stuff, smack the windshield and bump it with your hip or whatever, and then if you can Fonzie your way into the car, you know what I mean? But anyways, so hi, how you doing? Good to see you. You know what? It's interesting because I created this background and this stuff for the Monday show because I was effing around, and now I think it should be a moon instead of the sun because it's Moon Day. That's the root of Monday, Moon Day. It's the day we celebrate the moon. Hey, thanks, moon, for making sure that I guess our water doesn't run off into space, or the aliens have someplace to hide as they, between trips down to Louisiana to anally probe rednecks. There's a lot. There's so much the moon gives us. Blue cheese, I suppose. Anyways, so happy Moon Day to everybody who's out there, and hello chat room. Good to see you guys. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the show around. Let people know we're here. Let them know you're there. Let them know. Come on. Your key is inside the fob. Yes, I like those kind that flip out with the just in cases and that kind of stuff. And I do believe, yes, we have the Bob and the Cesca joining us this morning in the second hour. Hold on, I want to make sure I got my timing right. Audio mic, chats, Richard, oh, do I see Bob? Okay, hold on. Is he in now? I see. There he is. Okay, 1 second. My bad. I have to create this thing. So we had a little bit of a technical kerfuffle. So give me a second. Let me put it just on me. You're going to have to deal with me for a second. And then I'll bring in our dear friend. Whoops. We'll be there just a moment. Control this guy, and then we'll do this guy, and then we'll go this guy, and then we'll see him. We'll finally see the fellow, and I'll be able to hear him when I click on this, I think, if I am able to hear him. Check, check, check. Do you hear me, Bob? Can you hear me?
I do. I hear you quite well. Do you hear
Excellent.
me?
I do.
All
I do.
right.
Give me 1 second, and I'll pop you in. I just want to make sure I have the proper thing and they're doing the clippage and stuff. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I
And
always love being popped in by you.
it is
It's
good. It
always a
feels good. It's a
honor
good
and a
feeling.
privilege.
It's yeah. It's the it's a good feeling, a feeling inside. And by the way, congratulations on making the list of pardoned turkeys this year. I was very proud of myself. I know we all were gunning for that. I don't know if you watched that this morning. If you watched the semblance of normalcy, give me 1 second. I'm going to pop you in. Hold on, Bob, and then I feel like I should have a like noise, but there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Cesca joining us this morning.
Hey,
After
we're here.
after a long and hallowed delay, and we're all late because we were watching Biden pardon the turkey this morning, which was yes. I have to say, is it weird that these days I'm getting a little teary eyed when those things happen, just because I'm like, look how normal it is, look how bloody normal.
I feel like we need to cherish that more. I feel like we need to
Yes.
prioritize that more. We don't do that enough. We don't.
No.
What we're looking at is I think a lot of people are looking at Joe Biden through the prism of Donald Trump. Like,
Yes.
oh yes, the president now has to be in our lives 24/7. Otherwise, he's not doing his job. And that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Not at all.
The president is not supposed to be part of our lives
Exactly.
like his giant head in the living room all the time. It's
Right.
not what it's supposed to be like. On top of that, yeah, the president is supposed to do normal president style things that's not written into the Constitution, but we appreciate it when we see it. And when we're evaluating Joe Biden based on some sort of, I don't know, razzle dazzle fireworks view of the presidency, I think we're getting it wrong. I think what we need is competence and decency. That matters more than everything else combined, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. There was it's interesting because I feel like Ben Shapiro, like last week or whatever, said something that was kind of like the death knell for the Republican Party, and without even knowing it, which was, he goes, right now there's he goes the real quest about politics in America right now is first party to sanity wins. And what he meant was within the Republican Party, like the first, if they can somehow get around Donald Trump and just get somebody sane in there, they'll automatically win. I think that's what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately what he was saying was Republicans are fucking crazy right now. And it's just the party of like, that I keep the analogy that keeps coming to my head is that monkey with the cymbals. Like the entire Republican Party is just all fucking day. You just wind it up. That's all it does. That's all it'll ever do. Just
That's right. And the expectation is that the Republican Party has constantly got to be doing the clapping monkey symbol thing. And that's why they're stuck. They're totally screwed, Hal, because nothing short of that will work. If they put up a normal candidate, Nikki Haley, if Nikki Haley ends up getting the nomination, there is no way she would come even close to Joe Biden, in spite of the polling that we've seen recently, which is janky anyway. But that's a different story. The fact of the matter is, they can't go back. The toothpaste doesn't go back in the tube with the crazy meter. It just doesn't.
It's ugly.
They expect that. The whole Republican Party is geared around, well, who can be the craziest? Who can own the libs the most? That's what's most important.
Yeah, I feel like this is their expectation is that it's always a monster truck rally. It's always like that's the direction that, like, culturally the most important things that they experience are loud and obnoxious and full of shit. And so there's no other version of that. You know what I mean? Like even church has become that, maybe this is just the tack the Republicans have been on for a long time, but they seem to end up in mega church. Like it's not enough to go to fucking church anymore. You can't just have a little church, go to fucking church and be a church going churchy person. You have to go to this ridiculous ice temple north of San Diego that looks like, one of the back set pieces in the painting. It's sort of like the matte painting of Buck Rogers, the series. And you know exactly which one I'm talking about. And listen to some guy walk or woman, because there's a couple of crazy ladies as well, walk around a ginormous stage by themselves
Mhm.
after a half-assed rock band plays all morning long in what feels like a stadium, because it's
Yeah.
maybe that's the whole thing, is that if a lot of people don't believe this, then it's got to be wrong, which is
Right,
a
right.
really bad way to choose your ethics and your politics, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's sort of like that Bugs Bunny cartoon where he's in the construction site and there are two platforms and he's
Yes,
racing the construction guy as to who can crank up the platform to a higher altitude, and they
right.
just keep going and going dun, 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 and they get and then it's
They'll
so goddamn high that they don't know what to do with themselves at that point.
Right. Yeah. It's the natural conclusion of whatever you and everybody has to deal with the ad absurdum version of whatever their ethics are, because you can chase
Mhm.
any analogy into a corner and beat it to death and it doesn't work. So at
Yeah.
some point you have to let go of the analogy and start talking about the practicals. And Democrats are pretty good at that. We have those among us that are all analogy all the time, or all, I guess, narrative all the time, I guess, if you put it
Mhm.
that way. And but Republicans, it seems like that is the body of the people right now. Like that's it, whether it's Tuberville or Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever, it's all about the the PR, I suppose.
Yeah.
What they think is the PR. Although I don't know, it doesn't seem to be working. So what does this look like, Bob? I keep you and I were both puzzled by Mike Johnson, being their choice, because we were like, they're gonna have to pick a nobody, and they picked a nobody, but they don't
Yeah.
even know why they picked him. Where does this go?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I really struggle to try to game this out in sort of a more Star Trek trajectory, more of a, okay,
Yes.
we can end up in someplace good out of this. I
Yes.
really try to make an effort to
Yeah.
find some
I
sort
do.
of gamed out end game, some sort of end result that is solid, and that we can continue with democracy, we can continue with a republic, we can continue united without seceding into the balkanization of North America. But the
Right.
thing is, though, if it really depends
Mhm.
on one thing, and that
Right.
one thing is we cannot continue to function as a nation where whatever it is, 40-45% of the voting population is off in la la land, just completely abandoning everything that got us to this point as a republic. And I don't know if democracy can continue to operate unless unless we somehow disabuse these people of this madness. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if
Yeah.
it means each of us individually finding MAGA red hats that we know and deprogramming them, as Hillary Clinton was saying uh,
Right.
not
Yeah.
too long
Well,
ago, which isn't a bad idea. I mean,
right.
obviously, she's getting all kinds of fire from the right about
Sure.
that, but it's a fact. There are people who have
Yeah.
been brainwashed. If they were brainwashed into sort of the Branch Davidians or something like that, and let's say you had an uncle who suddenly became a Branch Davidian, you would make an effort, I think, to try to rescue that uncle from being brainwashed into this
Yeah.
cult, right? If he was into
Unless it was
crystal
really
meth,
entertaining. Um
yeah,
Meth, yeah, yeah, you have a good point.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's say he joined the Branch Davidians and he was also into meth. At
Yeah.
some point, you've got to try to rescue that family member
Right.
from being ensconced in this alternate trajectory of adulthood or whatever cult-like path they're on, this brainwashing, as Jen Senko
Right.
calls it. And so maybe that's a solution where we each individually find people we know and try to figure out a way, maybe develop a process. I mean, there is a process. I mean, there's an established thing for deprogramming someone who's been taken in by a cult. If we
Agreed.
just employ that, or if it's some sort of drug intervention style thing, maybe that would work too.
Well, the
I don't know.
problem is you
But
have to have them. You have to be. That involves institutionalization, or at least like a patterned
well,
behavior when dealing with it. And that's exactly what Hillary got in trouble for, because the
yeah,
deprogramming stuff. Look, after the Cultural Revolution in China, there was precisely that. There was this deprogramming idea that the Communist Party was going to do. So you can't even use language like that, because that's where they think this is going. This is where they always think this is going. They don't think they're nuts. They think they're the old culture that's being wiped out by the new Soviet culture.
yeah,
That's why they flipped out about what she said, because it sounded to them like post-cultural revolution Chinese Communist Party stuff. The
sure, of
the
course.
the you know the reality is, and we've been through waves of this kind of stuff before in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the Klan met at Madison Square Garden. There was a huge Nazi gathering at Madison Square Garden at one point. You know that we have, and the answer to it was not a national deprogramming of Nazification. Although you could argue that anti-Nazi propaganda in the United States may have played a part in that, but that was well into it by that point. Was effectively that a lot of these people broke up and retreated to their corner and realized they were outnumbered, and that their attempts to goad the world into a race war isn't going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the evidence they have to see is that, honestly, I don't think you're going to convince these people that they're wrong so much as you're going to convince them that their efforts will be fruitless long term.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? It shouldn't be this difficult, though, to herd people toward democracy. You know what I mean?
No.
And I'm talking
not in the United States, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking not just about the red hats, but I'm talking about some people on the left who are getting contrarian and starting to think about experimenting with third parties and
right.
You know, and God, it seems like a constant process of setting up sandbags or setting up a little habit trail tube to get these people to in November vote in support of democracy. It shouldn't be this hard. But it seems like we're constantly in this place, especially on social media, of triaging people just individually, one at a time. We confront someone, they're talking about, well, you know, democracy is all about having multiple candidates and having a multi-party system and having, you know, and then trying to say, well, you know what? We don't have a multi-party system. We're not set up like that. It is still a two-party system. So get on board. This is the immutable concept of electoral math. Like any other math, the numbers divide in a certain way, and you're stuck with that way, right?
To those folks, I would simply say Netanyahu, Rishi Sunak, David Cameron. That's what that shit gives you. This diverse kind of idea of like 5 parties jockeying for a positioning point within, and maybe, you know, coalition government. That's already happening in the Republican Party. They're having a coalition government problem between the maggots and the kind of like, I just have an R on my jersey, I just woke up here crowd. We have 2 primary ideologies in the United States politically, which is Democrats who believe one person, one vote, that equality of say is crucial to democracy as its elementary guide star or whatever. Republicans believe in a republic-based system, meaning landowners and people who are, you know, in states, for example, have more worth than the individuals within them. No matter what they tell you about individual freedom and all that bullshit, the idea is that if Democrats ultimately have their way, according to Republicans, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota won't have 2 senators after a while. They'll have one that they share amongst themselves because we'll have some sort of population-based standardized idea of how many senators they get. And if you want to base it by state lines, that's how it'll be. That's their big fear. So they're trying to do everything they can to stop that. The only reason the Republicans have even close to parity in the Senate is because Montana has fucking 2 senators, and so does South Dakota and North Dakota. Like these states with a fucking million people or less in them. It's absurd. So the Republicans are about the Electoral College as the primary way of electing a president and as the guiding point. That is, if you want to talk about corporatism, that's what that is. The incorporation
of the state. Done so well for them. They've been very successful with the Electoral College, especially in recent memory. Sadly enough,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the goal. Whereas Democrats believe in the individual vote, and it's messy and murky, but it involves everybody. They don't have a similar thing in all these other countries. They don't have a Democratic Party. You know, specifically in England, they have liberals and they have the Tories, and you know, like they have Labor and Tories, whatever, that variation, which kind of everybody thinks of as that, but that's not the same thing, and it's still under a monarchy. So their system is all predicated on a parliamentary system that ultimately answers to the queen, who has to put a stamp, or the king now, who has to put a stamp on fucking everything. The same thing is true of Netanyahu's government. All these assholes who are like, we should try 3 and we had 5 parties. That's exactly how the power hungry autocrats game the system, and through violence and control, and through loosely populated areas, gain control of the fucking government.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, when things are politically unstable, which is what's kind of being manufactured by the Republican Party right now, it's sort of like, you know what it is? It's like a security company coming to your house to try to sell you a security system, but the night before, screwing around with one of your locks, so you kind of are in a preordained state of panic, like, oh shit, people are trying to get into my house. Oh look, there's a security company here going door to door selling me a security
system. There's a leaflet
how
on the
coincidental is that?
Yeah, right.
That's kind of what the Republicans are doing. They're screwing with the levers of democracy and then saying, well, you know what, if you don't like democracy, there's this fascism thing we're developing here. Why don't you join us? Maybe you need a strongman dictator president to get control of this dirty, messy process that we call democracy. See how messy it was last time around? We're going to make it less messy because, you know, once our guy gets in, he's not going to leave. We're already interviewing people. We're interviewing 50,000 people to make sure that no one's there to make them leave. And that's what we're going to give you. We're going to give you order and well, if you're white, you're going to have order and peace. But if you're anyone else, you're kind
everybody else. Yeah. You're getting or Polish, I suppose. You know, they would include the Pole. The Brits include the Poles in the people to elbow to the border.
That's right.
There is an element of like, well, how do we get across the message? Because I look at the mythology they believe all the time. Like the only people saying there's an open border in the United States are Republicans, both in office and on television. Mayorkas isn't saying it. Biden's not saying it. Kamala Harris isn't saying it. There are more people, border agents than ever before. This is after the wall, so I blame the wall. I think if the border was better before the wall, then obviously the wall sucks. And there is an argument for that the access road to service it that they had to build on the Mexican side of the wall has actually made it more traversable, so people can get further and get around it, which is the irony and fucking hilarious. But how do you think we start shaping the conversation to push back on the two or three things that they work as a needle? You know what I mean? Like border and they're certainly using the fentanyl crisis largely because it is hitting red states way worse, ironically, than blue states, because blue state drug consumption it's a per capita thing. So there's volume of people in blue states, but it's really hitting the red states bad. How do we push back on the languaging of that other than going, it's not true, simply?
Well, the languaging of immigration, or just by and large, pushing back
those main Republican talking points, especially starting with immigration, because that's the one that apparently is gaining the most ground across the board.
That one that's a difficult question, only because it's sort of in the same realm of treachery as Israel Hamas. Talking about that, it's immigration is a difficult issue to,
if you care,
find a place. And that's
if you don't care, it's super easy to talk about.
Get them out.
That's it.
The thing I always come back to with that, and this is specific to the word that Donald Trump invented for these people, the caravans. He didn't really invent the word. He just said he invented it. We're talking about people who are escaping persecution and death. I think if there's any way to push back against this idea and get the swing voters that we need to get on this issue, it has to be, the only thing I can think of is to make obviously the immigration system more robust, and to have a path to citizenship, and to also frame it in a more humanitarian way, which is that our role in the world is to provide a place, a safe space for people who are being rejected by their own countries. And that's what we've always done. Historically, we've always been this refuge for anyone who's been persecuted for whatever other reason, mainly political, religious, etc. And a lot of these people are coming to the United States for that promise. They're coming for the promise of freedom. They're sending their children here for a better life than the possibility of being captured and tortured, or
Mm-hmm.
captured and murdered, or just straight up murdered en
Mm-hmm.
masse. And so, maybe a humanitarian argument. But the other thing that I've been thinking a lot about, Hal, is the economic argument. The argument about, well, inflation is 3%, or gas prices are $3. Oh my God, let's try fascism. And
Right.
so the thing I think I keep thinking about is the false terms upon which the economic discussion is actually had in this country, where for some fucked up reason, we're still in this place where I think a lot of people look at the Republican Party as being the fiscally conservative, budget hawk party, the
Right.
party of the
The
economic
illusion of
recovery,
fiscal
somehow,
conservatism. Right.
which bears no sense of reality whatsoever. There's nothing accurate about any of that. In
Right.
fact, last week I was on with Stephanie Miller Wednesday morning, and I said, "Yeah, I don't know how they keep winning this economic argument. I don't know why people are looking to the Republicans to solve inflation. For God's sake, the last two presidents have resided. The last two Republican presidents have presided over gigantic recessions. I mean,
Yep.
colossal recessions, and." So we're going to go back to that again. Oh my God, the short-term memory. And then I realized after I got off with Stephanie, I looked it up. It's a lot more than just the last two Republican presidents who have
Right.
presided over recessions. I think every single Republican, starting with Taft, has presided over
Right.
a recession in some way. I think one of them, maybe it was Warren Harding, kind of inherited the second half of a recession. There's some gray area with a couple of them in there. Like Ford, I think, inherited a bit of
Right.
Nixon's recession.
Sure. Yeah, he didn't
But the
really get
fact
to
of the
get any
matter is,
policies off the ground in any major way economically,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, chances are, if there's a Republican president, there's going to be a recession. This
Well,
is
that
just
and
the
right
bare
now
bones of it.
I keep seeing, and this is the kind of crisscross I see all the time, because I have never been one to read like the market papers like Bloomberg and Market Watch and all that kind of stuff. But I saw
Yeah.
this like blatant hypocrisy in the Fox business world, cutting against the details. We would see a great jobs report, we would see the stock market going up, or we would see something, and they would somehow find a way to say it's either not happening or it's bad because of X, Y, and Z, other
Mhm.
reasoning. And so I started diving into reading, articles not just on like on Bloomberg and Market Watch and Fox Business, but like the places where they get their sources from, which is like
Yeah.
oil index price things, and like weird stock kind of like Motley Fool kind of articles where they're talking about how
Mhm.
much a company is worth and how many stock shares they have out, and blah blah blah. Anyways, their main
Mhm.
base, and it was so blazingly full of shit and such a lie that I know for what made me mad was I know for a fact that Maria Bartiromo and Kudlow and all that crowd are fucking like, when they're off camera going, we're in the money, they are right, because they are
Yeah.
watching the stock market go up. They have exactly the same kind of investments they had previously, and it's all going up. It jags around, but they
Yeah.
find some way, and even the inflation, they find ways of making money off of inflation. I think that it very well may be that the recession thing every Republican president makes happen is a feature, not a bug, because the Wall Street fat cat dudes love to buy during a crash. They sit
Mhm.
back when there's with cash on hand and everything goes to shit, and then they just buy up all these stocks and let them rise again. And we've seen this
Yeah.
multiple times. And with Donald Trump, it's the first time in my lifetime where I was aware that this might be the plan, that they go, will, with them, not wanting to raise the debt ceiling or trying to shut down the government, that Republicans in general, this is one of their strategies. Like, they promise their investors, I won't call them donors, they promise
Mhm.
their investors, we'll crash it by this date,
Yeah.
and you can buy a bunch. Everybody will be losing their shirt and selling stuff so they don't go broke, so they're going to buy their kid the GI Joe with the kung fu grip by Christmas, and they'll sell, and you guys can run in with all your cash and buy it up, and that's our favor to the rich. Like that seems like the only aspect of the Republican Party that they think functions right now, because they don't want they're mad the I don't know, the economy's doing very well, and the sales pitch is like it's hell. Look at Trump. It's hell. We're going out of the tubes. It's hell, hell. You're in hell. You're going to be in hell. It's hell, hell. Now, I don't mean my background, but seriously, I feel like that's not an accident anymore. That's the only thing they actually have to offer to their supporters. We'll crash the government on cue.
And the choice is staring you right in the face. It's incredible. Where on one hand, you've got a Democratic administration under Joe Biden, where every economic indicator is improving. Inflation is coming down, stock market is solid, unemployment is near or at full employment, for God's sake. I mean, everything is looking solid. So you can either say, well, you know what, bread is still 20 cents higher than what I was paying before, so let's try the other guys. I'm just sort of gaming this out. Let's try the other guys. Let's try Donald Trump again. What will that give us? Well, we know exactly what that's going to give us. That's going to give us the destabilization of, well, the entire world. I was going to say destabilization of the economy, but Donald Trump will destabilize everything. And so that's not going to be good for, American voter X's personal finances, destabilizing the economy. And that is even prior to what you were just talking about with regards to a recession. Just the very existence of Donald Trump in the White House is going to send everything off on a wobbly footing when it comes to those things. And we saw it. Look, yes, COVID was a big factor in it, but it was his response to COVID. There was a way for him to handle COVID that wouldn't have precipitated a gigantic economic recession, a gigantic collapse in the economy. He could have avoided that were he competent, but he's not competent. And that's the thing. So that's the choice. You have a complete destabilization of everything on one hand, or an improving economy, not exactly what you want it to be right now, not down to the goddamn penny when it comes to the price of bacon. But things are getting better. And I'm pretty confident that by next November, obviously it's going to be even better. It's going to be even easier to make this compare and contrast kind of argument.
I agree. I think that's why Biden hasn't lost a spring in his step at all, because he knows the direction this is going already. That's why, he stood on the picket line. He knows that like construction jobs, especially around infrastructure work, are up, and they're going to stay up because these are 5-10 year projects, a lot of them. And like the projected outward like GDP growth for the United States is nearing 6 to 7% because of that very thing going into 2025 and all that kind of stuff. Michael in our chat room, mentioned disaster capitalism, which is exactly what I'm talking about when they crash it on purpose and then scoop up the remnants. I would argue that the crowd you're talking about that we have to, talk down, I would jokingly, of course, but refer them as disaster communists. The idea that believe that the whole system has to come down so we can build utopia on from its ashes. And there's a lot of, there's been a lot of talk about that for ages. Amongst the most virulent Bernie bros, that if you drill down deep enough, that Susan Sarandon supported Donald Trump's election because she thought he'll destroy the country, and that's what we need. We need America be destroyed so that the world can do a reset somehow, as if that's the default of humanity is kumbaya or some nonsense. Which in all honesty, the Middle East should be a constant reminder to us of no ebb and flow in any of it. It should be a constant reminder that that's not how it works. That's not. That is not the baseline. That's why we had to fight a revolutionary war with our friends over across the pond to establish this in the first place. And it's still, I would argue, being fought by what are the Trumpists but monarchists? What do they want Trump to be but a God king? A king sent by God, ordained by God. I mean, the fucking Roseanne talks about him like that. These people who speak at his rallies, it sounds much more like Jonestown.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's God, so telling of this era that we're in is that there are so many Americans among us who, for some reason, I don't know what exactly caused this, whether it's the aforementioned brainwashing or what, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of broken bullshit detectors out there.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been looking at lately and kind of taking a kind of a 30,000-foot view of it is the January 6th insurrection. And as I see these guys and videotapes circulating, I know Liz Cheney was sharing some clips the other day.
Mhm.
And as I'm looking at that footage again and again and again, what I see now is a whole lot of suckers, just a whole bunch of people who believed the most obvious con man in the
Mhm.
history of obvious con men.
Right.
I mean, it to a normal person who's got their head screwed on right. You take a
Yeah.
look at Donald Trump and you say, okay, well, this guy's full of shit. He's
Sure.
obviously full of shit. He's been full of shit for 40 years.
Right.
He
He's been
didn't
a
just
running gag
emerge.
in New York. Like he's
Yeah,
been
exactly.
yeah. I
Yeah,
played a
and for the
clip.
longest time,
Yeah.
yeah, for
I
the longest time, if you were to ask around 10 years ago, you ask, "Oh, well, who's Donald Trump?" I mean, other than the guy from The Celebrity Apprentice, "Oh, he's that cartoon character from New York that no one takes
yeah.
seriously." That's who he was, and that's kind of who he still is. He's still that ridiculous cartoon character, and that's one of the things that I think gaslights us most. And I'm sure you've been through this many times watching all the rallies and the rallies that I've watched too. It's like
Oof.
I'm astonished at the vast number of people who see that and go,
Mhm.
yes, that guy's telling the truth. But I mean, back to
Right.
the insurrectionists, those people were so dumb and so easily misled by this obvious con man that they are willing to exist for the rest of their lives, one, in infamy, two, a significant chunk of that in federal prison,
Mhm.
and three, with a criminal record for the rest of their lives. Why? Because they couldn't differentiate truth from absolute obvious fiction. I
Yeah.
mean, like cartoon fiction.
Right.
It is so clear that he is full of shit. And I can't emphasize this enough. And it seems like it's old news. It seems like we're having this conversation in 2015, but it's still true because there are still people going, oh, yeah, that guy. Why don't we try that again?
I
And
will say I will say for all the like the window into Donald Trump's power that he currently maintains through either Truth Social, his ability to kind of like pump out these dickhead statements that he does on the regular, or his little
yeah,
videos that he puts out on Rumble or any of that shit. Uh, the idea is you could get the idea that he has an equal amount of power and influence that he had in 2015, 2016, or even during his presidency. When in
yeah.
reality, if you look at like his most recent rallies, the last one, which I think was Saturday, was in a fucking gymnasium, like a high school gymnasium.
Yeah.
That if Donald Trump had even been filmed doing one of those in 2015, 2016, he wouldn't have been elected president.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah.
his people only followed him because, oh my God, the giant, like he's basically speaking at, Eagles Stadium or fucking, at the 49ers Stadium all the time in their mind. And so
Yeah.
they don't even, they go to these things, some of them, but if they don't, they just kind of assume he's still popular because the polls say so or whatever. But in reality, the more they watch it, people walk out halfway through it. The place is, 2/3 full at best most of the time. And it's become, you can tell as a stand-up, and I'm sure Fugelsang and any other touring stand-up you talk to will know that a lot of times, if you're really having a rough show, if there's a really rough crowd, there are certain comics that will fall into baseness. They'll just get dirtier and dirtier and dirtier to try to like dislodge whatever weird fucked
Yeah.
up sense of humor the crowd might have,
Mhm.
because they're not into it. They didn't come there to see you. They're just there because they need a laugh and they're mad at the world or whatever. So they're sitting there or they came to heckle, that kind of shit. So all you can do is just get filthier and filthier as a way to do it. And that is exactly what's happening to Trump world. They have to like there's more swearing at that rally than I do at my regular show some of the time. And
Yeah.
for fuck's sake. And I'm amazed, but I'm kind of not, because if he doesn't say bullshit, that's why Roseanne yelled it. Just to let you know, she responds to it the same way that audience does, and she wants to hear him say it all the time, because they just like, oh, they're goading for him to just say it, which means the rest of the fucking speech is boring the tits off them. They're just so they're like, oh yeah, okay, oh yeah, okay. Right, oh, Mar-a-Lago's that big. Oh, great. Oh, it's terrific. Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, yes, it's a weaponized, totally weaponized. He said bullshit. He said bullshit. High five. It reminds
it's like it's like that Mr. Roper take he used to do on Three's Company, where I'm gonna reenact it. It'd be like, yeah, bullshit.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like it's like, hey, look what I just did. Look what I just said. Isn't this great? I just said bullshit.
Well, it's like my favorite hair metal moment, which is when the band Rat said the word ass in a song and literally solo right after it. Sometimes you're just a pain in the ass. Which is just like, we said ass, we said ass, we said ass, we said ass. We said ass and it's on TV. We said ass and it's on TV.
Used to do that. Dana Carvey used to do the bit where he's doing the guitar, the guitar solo, and he suddenly changes keys, and he's surprised by the key change.
Right.
But right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like you get that.
It's
like, look at the magic I just did by going from C major to D minor. That's incredible.
Yeah, but that's where the rallies are going right now. Like, he has to come out and just go, at some point he's just gonna have to like say off with his head or some shit, because it's going in that direction. And I have been watching, and I'm not the only one. Oh, I'm hearing you bounce back as the speaker shipped over, but that's okay. Oh wait, that's Tara. It is Tara in the background, isn't it?
I see Tara.
Oh, she's hanging out. I see. That's where it is. I'll mute her until we get to this point. But by the way, I want to remind everybody, Bob Cesca Show. .com, which will take you to his Patreon, where you should support him as well. A rising tide lifts all boats. I'm thinking maybe Chuck, to all the people who've got a Patreon, you throw like $5 at $20 a month to $5 to four of your favorite people, me, Bob, Boston Brian, Texas Paul, maybe, or whatever. I don't know. Pick your poison, rotate it around, do it. It's a lovely way that you can contribute. It's a cup of coffee a week or something that you throw to each of us. I'm just recommending it. Kind of thing.
That's great. I'm just gonna bottle that and replay that on my show. Perfect.
Yeah. I'm way better doing pitches for other people's shit than my own.
I know what you mean.
For fuck's sake.
I'm there too. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, last thought, and then I'll let you go. I have been seeing for the first time conservative commentators talking about Trump's sundowning, talking about how he is behaving like they talk about their parents when they were going through dementia, starting to get angry because they don't understand what's happening in the world, and that anger starts to become physical sometimes, but a lot of times it's just they become mean, in the way that a nonverbal toddler gets mean because they can't express what they need. Do you think that's how this ends?
Oh, I think there's a strong possibility of that. Yeah. Sure. One of my favorite short circuits, by the way, recently was the pro-turd short circuit. I'm sure you covered that, where he was talking about Israel, Hamas, and I think he wanted to say pro-terrorism, but then he said pro-turd. And then it wasn't just the pro-turd part, but it was his reaction to that. You know how he retcons his fuck-ups all the time, like says the wrong word, short circuits, and then tries to make it seem, I meant to do that. Yeah. His reaction that time was brilliant, because it was, he goes pro-turd, and then he goes, gets his big saucer eyes and goes, "What you doing?" He says, "What you doing?"
What you doing?
Which I'm not sure exactly who he's asking or what he's asking, but the question was, Israel, Hamas, pro-turd, what you doing? I'm not sure. It was my favorite short circuit since Magnified Fortune.
I think he is like, because we haven't watched that on the show yet. I'm gonna surprise people later on today with it, because it's because it happened over the weekend. But I in my mind, I just pictured somebody like his teleprompter is broken, and they're just using old-fashioned cue cards, and it just said pro-turd on it, and he read it, and then
He's like, what
you doing? Such an asshole.
Little Rascals double take that.
Dope. Oh God, Bob, thank you for coming on. Please join us again. BobCescaShow.com. Check it out, and we're gonna have a roundtable next. And by the way, I think hold on, let me see if I can do this real quick. Probably I have two. Do I with the Johnny and no, because I'd have to put the. I can do this. All right, hold on. It's going to be the wrong names. Just work with me on this for 1 second. I got to turn off all the names so it doesn't get confusing. And grab her, copy link, and then go into here and go to here. Oops. And go to there and click this. Watch this. It's going to be magic. Hold on. Paste. And then okay. And everything. And then 1, 2, 3, boink. And sort of, there she is. Look at that. Hey, I was able to at least bring her on temporarily.
Hi. There she is right there.
Hi, handsome.
That's right. So we can.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hey, good to see you.
Hello.
Hey, if only I could start my every Monday looking like this, right? Wow.
Yeah. Wowza. So
I'm rewinding in my head and thinking of all the weird.
She's a lucky lady. Well, both of you.
Oh yeah.
Both of you. Both of you.
I will. I totally
Seriously.
will.
They seriously are, because they got the last couple of good ones out there, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you.
Anyways, thank you, Bob Cesca, for joining us. Everybody check out his show
We
on
love
the regular.
Bob Cesca.
Yeah,
good seeing you,
and
Good
we
to
will
see you.
talk to you again very soon. Cheers,
Okay,
and hold on, they're going to be stacked for 1 second, and then off they go. There you go. Thanks, Bob.
I already was stacked. Thank you. It's
Look
Monday.
out.
All right.
Bam.
Wow.
It's a Monday thing. It's a Monday kind of thing.
Just
How you doing?
another Meshuggah Monday.
It is a Meshuggah Monday.
Judaism as I can.
Yeah.
Because, you know. But Elon's not an anti-Semite because he said so last night. So everything's
Yes,
fine.
I was going to point that out. I thought that was particularly funny.
Really?
Because it's fake news, apparently. It's all fake news.
Is it?
I don't know if you
Is
know.
it really? Is it
fake
really news? when somebody who follows me sent me a tweet with a screenshot because one of her tweets got reported as a hate speech, and all she did was wish a Jewish person Shabbat Shalom. And so she appealed.
Yeah.
And they came back with, no, you violated our terms of hate speech. And so I was like, I quoted, I was like, hey, safety, this Jew would like to know, what about saying Shabbat Shalom to a Jewish person is hateful? Now, that's gotten like 200,000 engagements, but no response from actual Twitter people because they don't fucking care. We know Linda doesn't care.
Right.
And Elon hates Jews. So they're not actually, it's the same smoke and mirror bullshit that Trump uses. It's just like, ignore the people behind the curtain, but we're absolutely Nazis. So it's it's really time for him to go. And I'm not saying that to be flippant or funny or he's lost his investors so much money. Excuse me. Tesla is imploding, literally, as are his rockets.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a successful businessman. Where have we heard this before?
Right.
So and also he should be absolutely, if at the bare minimum right now, he should be losing any government contracts he has with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Because they shouldn't be doing business with an anti-Semite who endangers Jewish Americans. I mean, he endangers Jews globally because
Let's not forget this is the same guy who turned off Starlink because he didn't want to help the Ukrainians, a much smaller force against the Russian invasion, because that would be picking sides in a situation. Right.
So and all the normalization of all of this. I mean, his investors at the very least should be demanding his removal both from Tesla and from Twitter because he's not making anybody money. He literally isn't. And then there was just a story that came out and I tweeted it yesterday. We found out Linda Yaccarino hired her own son and he's working there and he's like a Republican operative and he's showing up at conventions and he's working the rooms to get like more Republicans and to like come. They have like $100 million to spend to back these Republicans. And it's horrific. Like, I'm tired. Like, so the Nepo baby bought Twitter to ruin Twitter, then hired
Right.
this woman who literally hired her own Nepo baby as they continue to demolish it from within. And she's just out there hanging out with Paris Hilton and beauty influencers and Louis Vuitton people. And meanwhile, investors and brands are leaving. Like, huge brands are leaving Twitter. They're pulling their advertising. Apple and all of these other huge brands are leaving Twitter like en masse. And Elon is like, actually, if you just buy Twitter Premium, you don't have to worry about ads in the first place. Well, if that's how you're sourcing most of your income to pay back your investors, like, I think you would need to keep those ads a-flowing, and you should be wanting to keep these brands happy instead of letting themselves be positioned next to hate speech. What do I know? I don't know anything. I'm only Jewish.
Go figure.
What do I know? I only worked in radio, and I know what sells, baby.
That's right.
But this, in all seriousness, the increase exponentially in anti-Semitism just over this last week.
Yeah.
I mean, it not news, but I mean, it just seems like it really got like louder this week when we should be louder. Nazis marching in Wisconsin. Nazis were marching in Wisconsin this weekend in 2023. Oh, very bravely with their masks on.
Yeah,
they wouldn't wear for COVID, but
right. That's one of the things that really.
I was with my Nazi friends, so
yeah. That's one of the weirdest things about this is like, in the United States, you are protected in terms of your political right to free speech and the like. You're not protected against the consequences if you get fired for doing it, that kind of thing, I guess is a possibility. But you're not going to be arrested for it. You're not going to face any, jail time for being a complete violent racist pig. As long as you don't act on those thoughts, you can pretty much say just about anything. And yet these folks mask up around all these things, and it's very curious to me. There was an interviewer going around the streets of London during the pro-Palestinian rally there, and so many of and obviously there were a bunch of what were effectively Palestinian Arabs or just Arabs in general who don't want Israel to exist, who were like, ask a Londoner, I don't believe, like, okay, come on, dude. Come on. Come on. You're like, it's a little, you're like, ease up. Of course you're there. But there was like a British lady who was wearing a mask as well. And she was kind of dancing around the idea of like, it's not anti-Jewish, it's anti-Zionist, and it's the Zionists and Zionists over there. And that is an argument that for the longest time I felt some sympathy for, because it seemed like it was more related to the Zionists were the settlement people, and they are always pushing it, and that's part of the dig. But the problem was, which is a reasonable conversation to have, I think. As a matter of fact, the president, Biden is going to he issued an executive order, and they're working with the State Department to sanction settlers in and around the West Bank who are not, who keep doing this financially. If they do this, if they take Palestinian land, like, that's a smart way to do it. We just won't, we're not going to put bullets in those situations, but it's one of the ways to like levy that out. And it's not something that the government there is, they don't technically support it, but they back them up and all that. It's fucked up. It's just one of those weird elements of it. So the Biden administration is doing that about it. I think that's actually great. But when you talk to this woman, when she talks about like quote unquote anti-Zionism and not anti-Jewish, when they finally asked her, what does free Palestine mean? And she parroted the river to the sea thing. What she meant was all of it. Like, Israel doesn't exist. That's what it boils down to. That a lot of the hashtag free Palestine, I think a lot of the hashtag free Palestine people don't think that way. They think free up the people in Gaza and free up people in the West Bank to have their own rule and live and be and a porous border, what have you, which is very interesting because, again, they would become technically two states means two countries. Mm-hmm. They're not two states under the same government. It's not a state. And maybe that's the language. Maybe that's the problem. because we talk about a 2-state solution. What we need is a 3-country solution. The West Bank is a country. Gaza is a country. Israel's a country. You know what I mean? It's the mix of that word state that fucks with people. But ultimately, what she boiled down to was free Palestine meant, she said, the whole territory. What she meant was Israel ceases to exist.
That's not the solution.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and ultimately,
I mean, it's a solution that is very final. If you catch
it's Hamas's solution.
Well, Hamas would like to wipe them all out. So, and they're also fine with sacrificing their own because they have no regard for humanity, kind of like a lot of the House GOP. So,
right.
It's a similar mindset of we're okay with blowing ourselves up as long as we're blowing you up with us.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, again, nobody really wins a war. And what people need to take a step back and look at is the human consequences, the civilian consequences, and you are allowed to have empathy for people who are just caught in the middle of this, you know, this terrorist assault on all of them. And they're already, so if you have a common enemy, you know, it's supposed to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I know I sound naive, and even as an American Jewish person, it's not an and or, it's an and.
Mm-hmm.
It's and you can not support Netanyahu, but you can support the Israeli people. You cannot support Hamas, but you can support a peaceful solution for the Palestinians. You cannot support the attacks, the constant bombing of Gaza. You can support the idea of a temporary ceasefire or humanitarian pause or whatever you want to call it, so hostages can get out and aid and food and supplies can get in. But ultimately, what everyone needs to remember is we are dealing with a terrorist organization that plotted this attack on October 7th for 2 years.
Yeah.
They violated the ceasefire. So when we are talking about things other than how to defeat a terrorist organization, it muddies the conversation, because we should be talking about how we are saving human lives ultimately, because ultimately that is supposed to be the result of any, like, how do we end this quickly so no more people die? I'm tired. It's not that I'm tired. It's that we don't want to be seeing babies with no legs and children screaming over their parents' dead bodies. It's heartbreaking and it's unconscionable. It's the unimaginable, the numbers of children who have died as a result of this. And, you know, if there was a solution to make Hamas stop being terrorists, I think they would have implemented already. There's not a simple, because Americans are fucking lazy and they don't want to work hard and they want their shit yesterday. And so they're like,
well,
why
it won't be solved like an app.
Already?
They believe to some degree you could swipe right and get rid of this.
Activism only goes so far, right?
Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas chief, Yahya Sinwar, is the guy who came out and said this was a rope-a-dope all along, and they fell for it. And there will be another October 7th to October 10th, October 12th, October millionth, that was his saying. They'll never stop. And okay, he wrote a note. He was and sent it to he basically sent a letter saying a tactical ceasefire, please take the calculated risk on a ceasefire with us, and we will start normalizing. And he was the first to extend this. It was bullshit the whole time. He did that 5 years ago. Anybody remember what Donald Trump was doing 5 years ago? He was giving the Golan Heights to Israel. He was declaring Jerusalem the capital, and he was moving the embassy. And he was, through the Abraham Accords, while he wasn't getting any major players online, he was getting a bunch of minor players online, and that was enough for, basically, they took that as part and parcel. And the fact that, I guess, Jared Kushner's Jewish and was heading this for the administration was enough for the Hamas leadership to go, all right, we got to dig in and kill. Like, we're gonna have to sucker these guys in, buy into this for a while, bide our time, hide our strength, and then attack. And that's what this did. So this all goes back to the slapdash foreign policy nonsense of Donald Trump going, I don't know why somebody hasn't done this so far. It's like, because they were thinking it through, fuckwad. They knew this is where it would go. They knew that people like Yahya Sinwar would take advantage of this. They knew that, that basically half of the people in Gaza, effectively all the adult males, and a good third at least of the people in the West Bank are still fighting to restore the Ottoman Empire, effectively. Like they want to go back.
I don't know if you caught it though, but Donald Trump said that the Taliban referred to him as Your Excellency. He's like,
he says that a bunch, yeah.
He goes, do you think they call Joe Biden Your Excellency? I don't really think that's bragging stuff. You shouldn't be bragging that the Taliban are your buddies.
Yeah, it's like saying Ted Bundy calls you champ.
Right? Hey, let's go hang out at Camp David.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. This is the one thing that I think people don't, reference. So Jordan and Lebanon, never mind the fact that as soon as Israel started, was declared as left over the British mandate, they decided to establish this and those territories as partly Israel, and then the rest of it, they, everybody in the surrounding countries just decided to declare war on Israel because they didn't want it to exist. Beyond that, Jordan. It's funny how we talk about Jordanians, for example, and Jordan's one of the most stable countries in that region, right? But there are no Jordanians. That's a new country. It's the same age as Israel, right? Like Israelites becoming Israelis is normal. Jordanians is a completely made up word. The British named that area Jordan. So we refer to people from there as Jordanians, but they aren't. Like what that's what you would call an exonym as opposed to an endonym. An endonym is what people in a country call themselves, and an exonym is what everybody else in the world calls you, or everybody on the outside.
With the SAT words, you're so smart.
Right. Well, I'll do in a pinch. But like it's the Jordanians and the Palestinians are exactly the same age as a country. The only root of Palestine being an area besides them, it being declared, the British basically naming it that as a FU to the Romans rather. The Romans naming it that area of Palestine as a fuck you to the Jews, which is what it was. It was Judea, and then they were like, oh, we're naming it after the people who basically killed you. How do you like them apples? That was how it got its name. But there were Palestine's a territorial area like America. They were like Americans. There's a lot of Americans, but we're from everywhere like that. But the area that is Israel now was effectively Judea. There was other Arab tribes further out. There was the Egyptians were south of there, whatever. But, never mind the fact that this could all be, you go back down to the Bell maps, and that's what caused all of this strife to begin with. But people mix up the Philistines and the Palestinians all the time, which is weird because they're Greek. Philistines were Greek. That's why they're talked about as being foreign in the Bible and in all the Hadiths, I guess, in the Torah, and in the Muhammad's originally talking about. They talk about the Philistines as these like the British talked about Vikings. They came across the water and they fucked with us and they rape, murder, pillage, take our shit and go. That's why Philistine was like a slight, calling someone a Philistine. That's not the Palestinians though. That's different. It's different. They're not the same. For fuck's sake, and if you're gonna go back to like Amalekites and Sumerians and shit like that, and go, the Palestinians are the Amalekites and the Sumerians. Like, no, they're not. Most of them migrated that way because of once Islam started and the Muslim push across that went up into Spain and into Europe and then was pushed back, and the mix of that, like, for fuck's sake, like, there is no Palestine. It's not a thing. It will be. That's the cool thing. You can have one now. You can name it that, just like you can name Jordan. You could just, right?
If people would just let each other live in peace,
right.
They can.
Right.
And I always sound naive when I say this, but I'm just like, divide up the land equally, leave each other alone, live and let live. What the fuck? And also, I mean, isn't there enough? There's just, it feels like, how much land does anybody really need? You know, like, why do you have to? I understand, like, there's there's dominance and this stupidity, but everything that you were talking about, all of the things that go back to the beginning of time, it's about coexisting. Your God is demanding you coexist peacefully, that you treat your brother, fellow mankind, as you want to be treated yourself, and everyone's killing each other instead. So, you know, and now again, I'm not a Bible scholar and not a believer. I'm one of the bad Jews. I'm not religious and I don't believe in all of that. But for those who do, but you don't practice it, like, I don't, to me, there's that huge disconnect. So, and I saw, you know, there's a lot of, and of course you're aware of this, is 18 bazillion takes on this topic out there, because there are people who are informed this much, and then there are people who are informed a lot more. But making these points and trying to equivocate it with anything else to take away from the horrificness is doing what's happening a disservice. And at the, like, there's a trend on TikTok to glorify Osama bin Laden and
his letter
to America. I mean, what now? You know,
let me be abundantly clear. And this is like, there's so much made about the religious aspect of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, about, you know, Muslim versus Jew and all that kind of stuff, because it's kind of, it makes the top line argument, and it has a lot to do with magic rocks and people believing that a specific spot in the world in your temple belongs here and stuff. So it eats up a lot of it, but a lot of it's territorial as well. But let's talk about the behavior and the ideology of the people involved. And Osama bin Laden's a good example of this in that letter to America stuff. In Gaza, for example, there are effectively anti-miscegenation laws. Can't marry black people. Black people are fourth-class citizens. Black Muslims are fourth-class citizens. They are like, there are no gay rights, nor will there ever be. Women's equality is not and shall never be a thing. It is both a traditional aspect of like Orthodox Muslim belief, and also culturally, societally, how they have chosen to live. Israel has none of those. And the fight between the two of those, if you go, okay, one state, everybody lives together and stuff, well, who has the dominant political control in that situation? Let's say it is, you know, an equal society where Palestinians and Jews serve next to each other. Do any of those laws get implemented? Do anti-gay and anti-woman and anti-miscegenation laws get put into effect? Does that happen? And the same thing applies to that whole Osama bin Laden's letter to America. Osama bin Laden does not believe in the rights of women and gays. He is absolutely racist towards black people and Indians, by the way, because there's this thing about dark skin in general in his ideology. And people just roll past this shit because the enemy of my, you know, the friendly talk of my enemy is my friend. It's almost like this weird thing. Oh, he'll shit on America, and I like that, so I'll let everything else go with it. And remember, and these are largely passing around amongst folks who believe themselves to be Marxists, or, you know, or folks that are allegedly on the left, Democrats, you know, in that zone, whatever.
Well, because now it's just the whole trying to reframe and rewrite the history that we all witness live on TV, like they do with January 6th. That's just please don't tell us what we're seeing isn't what we're seeing, because we're seeing it. We all don't even try, especially with 9/11. Don't try that. And it's so disrespectful in every single possible way. But especially when you hear praise for that. And by the way, also there's rampant anti-Semitism in his letter to America, because everything's the Jews' fault, of course. And also remember, he's the Nepo baby son of a billionaire. So, you know, life wasn't really that hard for him until he was finally hunted down and killed like the fucking piece of shit that he was. So, but to have any of it glorified, here's what they're losing. They don't understand the distinction. You're welcome to be critical of your country and your government. In fact, you should be critical of your country and your government if you see that they're not running it the way you voted for. That's fine.
Yes.
You can exercise your First Amendment right. You can vote. You can do a lot of things. Killing 3,000 Americans in one fell swoop in one building, not the way.
Right.
That's not how we do things here. That's not our way. They attacked our freedom, our very essence of being. They tried to blow up Washington, D.C., and just partially succeeded, but didn't. And we are very lucky that they didn't. And so, but for the people who weren't alive and are praising that letter or elements of the letter, they're not able to make those distinctions like, yes, be critical. No, don't be a domestic terrorist. Like we can be critical of the GOP without, plotting to do harm upon them.
Right.
So I feel like that, to make that distinction and be able to have calm conversations around it, and particularly now when social media is being overrun once again by disinformation bots because Donald Trump is not going to be the nominee and they don't know what else to do. And so major disinformation, multifaceted, different arms of this disinformation campaign to distract us from the bright and shiny orange thing. And so what people forget on the right is that because they're not smart enough, we can multitask, and we can multitask our outrage, and we can remember that there is a crisis going on in the Middle East, but at the same time, there is a crisis going on here at home that we need to take care of very quickly and make sure that we have, because I was listening to you and Bob talking about the Electoral College towards the end of your chat. And I mean, it's so antiquated. We're not going to be able to abolish the Electoral College before the 2024 election, which is unfortunate because it should have been gone before the 2020 election.
Right.
But I mean, really before 2016, it's antiquated. It's racist. It's not representative. The popular vote should be the vote that elects the president. It's the people's voice. So, and there's not an equal representation in the Electoral College. Just as you were talking about, there's not an equal representation in the House because different states have different amounts of representatives based on population. And so if we're not going to have a kind of fairness there, at least throw out the Electoral College so that at the end of the day, when all of the votes are in and the popular votes overwhelmingly speak, as they did for Hillary, as they did for Obama, as they did for Joe Biden, like there's very little people can do to push back against it. And again, to return normalcy into our election and get our election integrity is a huge part of what the conversation we need to be having amongst the rest of the conversation that we're having, because everything's so ridiculous.
Right.
And everything that's so ridiculous has been normalized so that we forget how ridiculous it is. And so that's why we're supposed to be here, you and me and Bob and Boston Brian and Liberal Dan and Stephanie and everybody we need to be, and we need to not be leaving Twitter. That's the other thing.
Yeah. Okay. Eric in the chat says, "This is America. Forget our past so we can secure your future." There is nothing about America that where we forget our past. As a matter of fact, I would argue in the United States, we harp on our negative aspects of our past more often than anyone else. Now, the Republicans will want to get rid of it. That's why there's so much outrage about them trying to change the curriculum to act like slavery was a fucking shop class for, right? But that's not what that is absolutely not what
that's the Prager unifying of our lives.
But I would argue that that's exactly what's happening to some degree in the Arab world with the Saudis and specifically with the UAE. They're doing a lot of that right now, which is forget our past so that we can secure your future, because they want, Dubai to become this the new Hong Kong, essentially, this economic center, was effectively like a true space for mega billionaires to come and engulf and divide the world up. And again, the Arab slave trade outlasted the Western slave trade by 40, 60 years. There's some of them didn't even stop until the 60s. Some of them are still going on today. They just do it they have to do it under the radar because of the economic pressures put on them by the Western countries. So the idea that we're somehow brooming our past or forgetting it is not anywhere near true. As a matter of fact, it is informing our behavior about what matters in the world. that we're not going to do it again, and neither are you if we can help it. Hence, our decoupling, quote unquote, de-risking, de-leveraging from China because of slave labor. They are literally having the Uyghurs pick cotton, and there are folks still arguing that, well, it's not quite the same thing because they're not sold, they're just bust.
Oh yeah, no, that's so different. I feel so much better.
Yeah. Other than that, I have no opinion.
Okay. Just the lies that people have to tell themselves to sleep at night is just extraordinary. It's just reality is so hard for so many of them.
It is.
They want to deny. I mean, it's just like you can ask them point blank, why is Donald Trump in court in New York, and why are he and all of his children testifying against each other? And they'll say because it's a witch hunt. So it's fine. It's a Democratic plot. Donald Trump wasn't found, liable of raping E. Jean Carroll. Somebody actually tweeted, the judge just literally made that up. Just made up that Donald Trump raped her. Really? No, the jury actually ruled that. It's a matter of public record, and you can look it up if you were so inclined, but you're not. So, it's, and again, I mean, most of what we're up against is the population that is already hooked through the bag, cult 45 wise. Will not. There's a segment of them that will never admit they backed the wrong guy. They will not let go. They're clinging to his, about to break in half ankles because he's so, ill and unhealthy. And you were talking about sundowning, and I talk about I tweet that all the time. Pawpaw is sundowning in real time. Yeah. I mean, the guy.
He's a mess.
He is a mess. And they make fun of Biden, and they say Joe Biden has dementia. You can take a screenshot of anybody mid-sentence and make them look like they're asleep, or they don't know what they're talking about, or they look confused.
Just use a photo of them and act like it's a pause. That's the biggest thing that you see on like Newsmax.
They're always like, Biden's like,
yeah, because he has listening face. He has resting listening face. Right.
Oh my God. And yesterday, they're so jealous of Joe and Jill Biden, just their innate goodness. And I tweeted, there's a video of Joe and Jill serving Thanksgiving to veterans in Norfolk, Virginia, alongside Robert Irvine, who's a lovely gentleman. And they're just serving veterans and their families, friends, and Thanksgiving, just, serving it up like a regular normal. And they've done that before because they're the Bidens and whatever.
They have friends.
And so then hastily, MAGA finds Donald Trump is standing like with some like bully MAGA sheriff somewhere at the border. He's like, here, have a fork. Here's a plastic fork to eat some Thanksgiving food. I don't know what this is. I'm not touching it. So it was a very like weird, almost Paul Ryan washing the clean pots sort of quick photo op moment. It's like, see, Donald Trump doesn't serve other people food. He doesn't want to be around other people who are eating. He's a germaphobe, and he doesn't recognize any of the food on that plate because it didn't get handed to him through a drive-through window.
Right.
So
it's not in a wrapper.
Exactly. And it doesn't have a fun name like Filet-O-Fish, it's just turkey. So, and Grimace didn't hand it to him. So,
well, and you also have to show appreciation to the cook. That's the other thing. Like, Trump does not want to interact with people he has to be grateful to.
You mean like the military?
Yeah, absolutely. Or the staff. They work for you. People work for you, so fuck them.
Yeah.
And that again,
they are so jealous of the Bidens, and they also cannot justify Trump's hatred of the military. It's so overt and so blatant.
And it's going to get worse. It's going to, he is not, there's no point where, Trump was, remember how they came out that he didn't want to be seen on stage with a injured or like a burned vet. It was a guy who was, burned over most of his body was at this event. And he told Kelly, like, don't bring these guys anymore because it looks bad or something.
Yeah.
Most politicians, even the most crass fucking politicians, the Ted Cruzes of this world, would immediately go out and find the most like deformed vet they could possibly find just to get an arm around the shoulder shot with them to make up for that, to show people either to push back on the narrative for real and go, I don't have this problem. By the way, here's a picture of me from 3 years ago at this event, blah, blah, blah. They would, real ones would do that. The fake ones would go and find somebody, go, we got to get a shot. I got to go stand next to a bunch of these guys so people know I'm not fucking around, because they're starting to believe this shit. Trump never did it. They never even fucking bothered. That's the one thing that stood out to me about that mini controversy that came up, that Trump doesn't want to be around injured or disfigured troops. He didn't even try to fucking push back on it. He didn't. I don't even.
It's real bravery. Real bravery makes him feel like shit about himself.
Yeah,
he hates the way it makes him feel about himself. He got his dad to buy him 5 Vietnam deferments.
Right.
So, everyone has to remember that he's a fucking coward, and insulting the military, like being a coward and a traitor to your country isn't bad enough, but insulting our military is really super low. I really don't know how much lower it gets than insulting people who actually selflessly serve their country and put themselves in danger to make sure that we can get up and not have to speak German or Russian every day. Right. So, and I don't come from a military family. My grandfather served in World War II, but I've always had the deepest respect for people who served, because it's it's just a true sacrifice to to their family, to their lives, to everything. And to not be honored by the alleged commander-in-chief for 4 full years, it's abhorrent to me that anybody can still look at Trump and be like, yep, that's my guy. You want to forgive him for literally everything else, you should not forgive him for that, because that's the ultimate slap in the face to someone who considers themselves a patriot. That should be beyond. That and, someone promising you a pardon and then not delivering on it and you staying loyal to them also does not make sense. Just to me, maybe just to me.
Well, I guess you're hoping that they get back in so they can make good on it, because what other choice do you have? What are you going to do? Like turn state's evidence when you committed an equal number of crimes to what they did? So, where's the out?
I mean,
what's your ripcord look like? Fucking hell.
If you are still someone who is in cahoots with Trump, you better call up Jack Smith and order yourself the Mark Meadows special, and ask Jack Smith if they're still serving the Mark Meadows special, and can you get that to go, because you need to let Jack Smith know literally everything that you know about Donald Trump, and get yourself some sort of sweet deal. It might take a while, but every single person who helped plot January 6th is going to be, they're going to get, the karma will get them one way or another. Like the Marjorie Taylor Greene of it really, really super bothers me, only because we have her on video before she's sworn into office going, we just had a great Platt family meeting and I'm going to go plant some bombs. Okay. She doesn't say she's going to go plant some bombs, but it's inferred. But the point is, we have her on video, which I tweet every day, where she confessed. She's there before she was ever sworn into office, never been held. And then when she was on trial in Georgia and she's asked about that, she's like, I don't recall. And she fucking gets away with that to the point where she has a book coming out tomorrow. So, by the way, Kyle Rittenhouse has a book now. Did you see that?
No, but I'm not surprised.
I'm the Republicans getting away with this shit. I don't know who's publishing Kyle Rittenhouse. It might be self-published, like I'm self-published, but not mine's better. But I agree. Like when like the George Santos accountability project is finally kicking in, so I'm glad to see that happening in the House. Yep. And I think I also heard you say right before I came on that what was it? Was it Chip Roy who was yelling on the House floor about show me something that we can use? Yes, that was Chip Roy. What did one thing the Republican Party do? What's the one thing? You handed the Democrats the House in 2024. That's what you did. Yep. And that should be the message. That should be the message. So that should be a unifying message for you Republicans. You just fucking handed us the House because you can't keep your shit together because you've been too busy playing the Trump show for the last 2 years. So
I'm amazed. Yeah, I'm amazed that these guys don't like can't maybe I'm not, because you have to be that stupid to get in this position in the first place. But I'm amazed that they can't catch themselves going, oh fuck, I'm walking straight into a trap right now.
Literally every time they speak. I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene should not be tweeting about the new January 6th footage. Oh, did some people walk around quietly for a few minutes before they went back to plundering and shitting on the walls of the Capitol?
right.
You know, not every moment of the day was full of rage. You know, some people were like, whew, I got to take a piss. Nancy Pelosi's office looks like a good place for that.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. It's just going to, her of all people, like, she and Lauren Boebert should be the ones going, don't release any more of the footage. What's wrong with you? You know, but Speaker Jesus Freak is like, no, we're going to show it all because whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to throw it all at the wall now. Democrats, take it all. Take George Santos, take all of it. Just make it one great big campaign video for yourselves.
Well, you know, he's not going to run again because, quite frankly, he's just simply not. He couldn't
be
win
in prison.
No matter what. Yeah, he's going to
going
to go
prison
to jail.
Is why he can't. He's not running
That's
again.
Right.
That's why.
That's right. But half of these idiots, I wouldn't be surprised if they think they could just run, you know, from jail. Like, just, you know, there's an upside to the way Republicans talk about, like, and I, you know, again, this is mostly in defense of Trump, but this idea that they're like, you know, I'll be a political prisoner for that. They even talk about the Jan 6ers, the ones who like attacked police officers as political prisoners. Can you imagine? Imagine if you will, and someone who viewed them as themselves as a BLM or Antifa spokesperson going on MSNBC and referring to somebody who was arrested for burning a target to the ground or beating a police officer, or that dude, that the fat red-haired dude who threw a Molotov cocktail at a bunch of cops out in Portland, outside the federal building, who got his ass handed to him because he missed and he went to pick it up to throw it again, and they all tackled him and knocked it out of his hand, and then, you know, it was a rough roll to the fucking squad car at that point. But imagine that guy. Imagine somebody coming out, or like Jamal Bowman or somebody, whatever, a standout member of the squad or something, referring to that dude as a political prisoner because he's in jail for throwing a Molotov cocktail at police officers, and then when it didn't hit them, trying to get closer so he could throw it in a doorway in an area where there are like secretaries and shit. Like, fuck out of here.
We don't do that. Democrats don't do that. We don't do
Yeah.
that. It's just
like,
you know,
that is amazing
dress up
to
like
me.
MAGA and attack our own Capitol.
Right.
Why that, you know, that line that it was an FBI's dark deep state psyop,
Right.
Democrat. Hi, we won. We won the election. Why would we want to stop the certification of an election we won with a president that we supported? That doesn't make sense, stupids.
Right.
So please stop. Please.
Right.
And then there's ghost buses. Did you see that guy talking about the ghost buses?
Ghost buses. Who's gonna call? Yeah, absolutely.
I ain't afraid to no hoax. So I'm clever like that. Thank you so much. I'll be here all week.
Well done. Yeah.
Thank you. You know.
Ghost buses. Have you heard tell of these ghost buses? Have you? These ghost buses.
They Democrat people. They're not democratic. They Democrat opposition force come in on these ghost buses, and then they sneak in under the guise of being MAGA. And when we was just there for a peaceful protest, and then of course the gallows photo makes the rounds again. Because don't you bring the tools and the equipment to build a gallows hastily in case you have to hang a vice president who just won't overturn the results of a legitimate election?
Right.
I mean, I do. There's casual guy casually with a rope, just hanged over soldiers waiting. Hurry up with that gallows. They don't build themselves. Let's go. You know, like, what?
Why?
What? Normal tourist visit. Sure. Shut the entire
I said here
up.
people in the chat room, I said hear tell of it. That's an old country way of saying stuff. No, Norm Macdonald often will do that. You ever hear tell or something like that?
Hear tell.
Like he'll throw that. That's a very
that goes
Canadians
along
do
with,
it too.
I'm fixing to.
Yeah, I'm fixing to or fin to.
I fit into. It's funny because when I first moved to Georgia, when I was a wee lass of mere 20 or 19 or 20, and I was trying to acclimate with was trying to acclimate in the South, and I'd ask questions like, do you have this? And they'd go, I sure don't. And I'd be like, you do or you don't? Because you said sure, and then you don't. And then people would be like, we might could. I'm like, that's the same thing. I don't know. It's just about picking up. I loved it though. After a while, I loved it so much.
Well, you know, again, people will talk to you about that whole like, bless your heart is actually fuck you and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I got news for you. That's preferable. It is preferable that people say bless your heart to you than fuck you. Like that, the fact that they are even stepping back from fuck you is a valuable thing. So I think we got to count your blessings. Thanksgiving is here. And it's true. It's one of the things you might want fixing to, feel better about is maybe things like that people don't absolutely say fuck you all the time.
I mean,
even when they feel it.
If you don't have to say fuck you, then don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the very people who are like, they really mean this. You're like, yeah, you really think something's going to be worked out in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and you think you can't let somebody saying bless your heart slide?
Nope.
Seriously.
I think, fortunately for me, I think both of the Thanksgivings I'll be attending this week will be probably politics free. So
I hope so. That'd be lovely.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, the first one, I'm finally meeting my older son's girlfriend's parents.
That's very complicated. That's a lot.
No, they're lovely. She's the lovely. Everybody's delighted that these two are together. And so everybody's very excited to be meeting each other. And that will be great. And then I have a Friendsgiving on Saturday with a bunch of my friends, and then we're going to see a show. So I think we're going to be able to keep it to like happy stuff and not all of the anti-Semitism. Like, I don't have to talk about that all the time.
Not all of it. Just
not
some
all
of
it. Just some of it. And
a wee bit of anti-Semitism,
just a touch. Can you pass the anti-Semitism? It's right there next to the racism and a little bit.
Right next to the pork scrapings.
That's why I wore this shirt, because I'm one of the bad Jews, not because I don't represent my people or I'm not proud of being 100%
dirty Jews.
Ashkenazi. I'm not. I'm very clean. I just took a shower. By the way, I don't run anything. I need to reiterate, I don't run anything. I am 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. So I'm fully Jewish. I don't run the media. I don't run the banks. I don't run Hollywood. I can't make it more obvious that I don't.
I hate to break it to everybody.
I've never been paid by Soros. Have you ever gotten a George Soros check? Because I'm still waiting on my first one from 2015.
No crypto, no nothing. I figured we'd have our own Soros coin by now, right?
Where's my S-Bucks?
Also, Jews don't run everything. The Irish do, but we do it by tricking people into thinking the Jews do it. It's a classic.
But then if you're a Jewish girl with an Irish name, I should double run shit.
I know.
Don't run
that's what I was going to bring up. Like, that's part of the slickness of it all.
It's just a fortunate name. And actually just a couple of days ago, a friend of mine, Jennifer Mendelson, who's a genealogist, she was like, you need to stop using your name got Corleone at Ellis Island, because here's your great grandfather, here's your great grandmother, boom, 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 boom. They were always Dublins all the way back to this town in Poland. And I was like, hey, wait, what? Because I don't know anything about my father's side of the family. And it turns out that there were Dublins in Poland in the mid to late 1800s. And I'm like, well, did they change that to sound less Jewish? And she was like, no, back then they would not have had to do that. I'm like, but I have a great grandmother named Mary Dublin, and that's even more Irish Jewish than me. And I'm
Mary
like,
Dublin.
how? We still don't actually know where the name Dublin came from. I contend it came from somebody did the thing where they gave them the name rather than they took the name for themselves. And I don't know, but what I do know,
they had a shop, and they always had a buy one get one free thing, and so the idea was that's the Dublin guy. If you want to go over there and get two of something, he'll double it for you. He's doubling it up. Hey, that's you know how everybody was named after their fucking job.
You down.
Right, yeah, that's right. He's doubling you up. It's so nice of him.
Yay.
It's hanging out in Poland's changed him a bit, but
just a touch.
Just a touch. They're doubling everything. It's a coupon. His cousin George Coupon has lived next door to us for a long time. He's only good twice a year though. That coupon fella. The rest of the year he's totally fucking worthless.
But then when he migrated, he became a Groupon and it just expanded just a bit. And that's the glory of America.
Sounds like a sex game. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sounds like we're both trying to be like Bono.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Am I bugging you?
I didn't mean to bug you.
Slapping them down 100, 200.
200.
Yeah, and I can hear those fighter planes.
Them in Vegas. We got to get me to Vegas when they're back so we can go see them in the Sphere. I totally want to go see that. I'm not kidding. I love you too. I've only ever seen them live once, but I have always believed that Bono they would all get a kick about just hanging out with a girl named Tara Dublin.
I know.
It's just, plus I need to meet Bono's daughter, Eve Hewson, because I want her to play the lead when we adapt this thing.
There you go. Yeah,
we have to. Oh, by the way, I want everyone to know, because I know we're running out of time. I have really, really, really fixed the paperback now. The font. Yeah. The font is bigger and there's no overlap of a word over a page number because I spent a week fighting with Amazon. It's fixed. Please buy it. The link is, I don't know if you have the link for it, Hal, but if people go to my Twitter, it's in there. But you can search me now. If you go to Amazon and search Tara Dublin or Tara Dublin, The Sound of Settling, you can actually find me now, which is great. And if you buy it on Kindle, I get more royalties based on per page, and I'm almost at 11,000 pages read on Kindle.
There we go.
323 copies sold. But here's the thing, everybody who's listening, the motivation here, aside from helping out your friend Tara, who's the reviews are really good. Like, it's not just me saying it's a good book. There's lots of people who have said 5 stars and it's great and it's this, and they can't put it down and they want it to be a streaming series. But we have the motivation of outselling both Kyle Rittenhouse and Marjorie, because Marjorie her book comes out tomorrow. She didn't write it. I'm sure she hasn't even read it, or had anybody read it to her. And it was published by Don Jr.'s money laundering service. So because it's probably printed literally on grifted MAGA money. And so, like any MAGA donations. So I think we all should have the motivation of helping me outsell 2 domestic terrorists. One's a double murderer. The other domestic terrorist, I mean, maybe she didn't directly cause, but January 6th has a body count and she helped plot it. So I'm just saying that I've never double murdered or even single murdered anyone. And I've also never committed treason. For
legal purposes. And I've been he was found guilty. He was found not guilty of murder in this. So the murder in the colloquialism, you're free to use.
I'm
the
using
legal
it in the
sense.
colloquialism.
And so I think because he's been found not guilty, I think that allows you to call him whatever the fuck you want, right? In that regard, because it's just it is opinion based. It can't even have its aimed intent. If you were intending to defame someone to the point of getting them in legal trouble wherein they would be thrown in jail, it'd be double jeopardy anyway, so it's fine.
Whatever, he just shouldn't be able to profit is all I'm saying. He shouldn't be able to profit from what he did. Marjorie should not be able to profit from what she did. She's already a multimillionaire. All I'm saying is I'm not a millionaire in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just saying, if you're going to buy any book or you're going to support people to read books still, have them read mine, because it's a rock and roll love story and it's super fun. And if nobody knows this, it's inspired by meeting Dave Grohl in 2001. Fan fiction, heavily fictionalized, very fictionalized, but I put some fun Foo Fighters Easter eggs in there for you, my fellow Foo Fighters fans. All right, go hunting. And the other thing, I want people to find them and tell me that they found them. But people are telling me things like they have a crush on my lead character, Lila, who I want Eve Hugh. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
But I'd like to have a crush on a character that I made up. I mean, she's loosely based on me, but it's not 100% me. And one person tweeted me and said that they missed my lead couple. I'm like, well, you know where they are.
Yeah.
They're right here. In The Sound of Settling.
There you go.
A rock and roll love story. So,
Fabulous.
as we face
Makes
another
a great Christmas
week,
gift or a Hanukkah gift or a Kwanzaa
it does,
gift
and Hanukkah,
or a
Hanukkah's
winter
early this
solstice
year.
gift.
Winter solstice, Kwanzaa,
Mhm.
whatever you celebrate, you can create a book club with the sound of settling. I'll come over.
I'm still working on my book. It's not even that big, but I've been working on it for quite some time. It's a Sparksist Megafesto, which is the literally just all my Sparksisms explained.
That's adorable. I'm happy to help you,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you.
I have plenty of time since I'm not employed yet still.
Yeah, that's right. I might need an editor. That's a good idea. That's a
Well, I mean, we all need the help we can get these days, and that's what we're here for.
That's
and
right.
It is Thanksgiving, and actually, not to sound like too goopy, but Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday because it's not super commercialized. You don't have to do really anything except show up and eat and not be a dick, you know. And I mean,
I'm the cook, so.
And I mean, for those, I'm gonna make. Oh, by the way, if you need the best side dish ever to impress at your Thanksgiving, it is the Aunt Fanny's baked squash casserole. Google it. I'm bringing it to my Thanksgiving.
Aunt Fanny's
squash. So there used to be a restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was living there, called Aunt Fanny's Cabin, which this tells you how far we have or have not come because it's not there anymore. But it was made out of an old slave quarters, and the food there was unbelievable. You know, traditional Southern cooking. And one of the side dishes was this baked squash casserole that I could not ever get enough of. And they eventually released the recipe. And I have made it every year for Thanksgiving. And people are like, oh, I don't care for squash. I'm like, really? And then they're like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. And please give me 17 more pounds of this. So it's the easiest thing to make because I don't make anything that's difficult.
Sure.
So my gift to you all this Thanksgiving, if you're looking for something easy, it is, Google it, Aunt Fanny's baked squash casserole. One tip though, you don't need the sugar. It calls for a little bit of sugar. You don't need it. Anyway, I want everyone to be safe and healthy and happy. If you're traveling for Thanksgiving, be safe. And as somebody who faced anti-Semitism in my face recently, if you were faced with something at your Thanksgiving table that you're not happy about, there's a helpful video that Leslie Jones made for the Daily Show that I suggest you look up because that's the way to handle it. She's like, oh no, you are not talking about transgender at the Thanksgiving table. It's great. It's great. You don't have to yell at people, but you can calmly say, I'm honestly surprised you brought that up. I'm honestly surprised you said that to me. You can deflect anybody by saying, oh, I'm honestly surprised that you said that to me.
Yeah.
Try that.
At the
instead of fighting for one day.
That's one of the other things, like at Thanksgiving. I've always found it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, dude, it's Thanksgiving works.
Yeah. Dude,
really?
hashtag dude, it's Thanksgiving. Yeah. And
really?
The same thing
Can
is
we
true
set
of
it aside?
dude, it's Christmas.
Right. Can we set it aside for a day?
Yeah.
Can we shelve it for a day?
That as a shame point works better than almost anything. Dude, it's Thanksgiving.
Almost.
Dude, it's Christmas.
It depends.
I'm serious.
It depends.
It works.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But the other part of it is for people who, for whatever reason, aren't with their blood relatives, whether that's by choice or those blood relatives are choosing not to be with them. There are people who have situations where they have family members who are no contact, and it's really devastating. And I think we also really need to be mindful that not everybody's Thanksgiving is connected to blood family, that we have chosen family that we can also spend it with. And there's no shame in that either.
Nope.
You know, there's also no shame in spending Thanksgiving by yourself, as I have done several times, and it's delightful.
I'm so grateful to be alone.
You know, sometimes
All
you're just
alone.
like, you know what?
Right.
I didn't need this bullshit, and I didn't need this bullshit. I mean, there were a couple of Thanksgivings pre-pandemic where I was working because I worked in restaurants where we served Thanksgiving, and I was so fucking tired and I didn't want to smell turkey anymore that I just went home instead of going to a Thanksgiving. And for me, I was fine with that. And everyone's like, that's sad. I'm like, no, you have no idea what it's like to come home after 10 hours on your feet of people being nasty to each other on Thanksgiving. It's so great to be by yourself on a day like that. So, but again, being a single person, I have that choice. Not everybody has a choice. And I just want everyone to know that if you feel like, again, and I'm not doing this to be glib or maudlin, if you're feeling alone on Thanksgiving, you're not. You're just not. If you're on this chat, you're literally not alone, and the Sparks universe is full of really good people, and
it's true.
You know where each other are, so like make yourselves a plan to hang out at some point over the Thanksgiving weekend and connect with each other. Seriously, just make plans, because once you have a plan, then you have to, hopefully be held accountable to it. Like my friends and I have plans tomorrow night to go to karaoke, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
You're gonna go.
Fine. We're gonna have
You're
fun.
Gonna go.
It doesn't. We're gonna
go.
Like the thing. We have to remember that in the midst of all of the garbage fire, we are still allowed a little bit of joy.
Yes.
And some light, happy love story reading. There's my last plug of the show.
No, it's good. I'm for it, and because we're at the tail end of it, and it worked out perfectly. I would argue that you have a responsibility to spread as much joy during the holiday season as you are physically capable of doing, because the world needs more of it. If the purpose of getting past war and strife and poverty and all the awful in the world is to just be maudlin all the time, then there is no impetus to ever change it. And that is, I had a friend in New York at one point. We were sitting at dinner, and she was like, I just don't know how I can be happy with all the suffering that's going on in the world. And I was like, because you have a meal in front of you and a roof over your fucking head, and if you don't
clothes on your back,
you're spitting on the very people who would kill to be. Here's a good idea: go trade places with somebody then. Because if you're not willing to do that, then shut the fuck up and smile through this, and give them something like, one day, if we get over this, I can go live like they live. That's again, the difference between envy and coveting is a crime, is a sin because you want theirs. Envy is I want something like that, and that can be a driving force in your life. It's not a bad thing to go, I want better for myself and my kin, and the thing that does that is you see people enjoying themselves, the warm side of a bay window, a happy family operating together, people laughing and smiling. It gives you something to fucking shoot for.
Yeah, if a friend says to you, I don't know how I'm supposed to be happy during the holidays when so many people are suffering, well, then go do something that makes you and another person happy. Exactly. Go volunteer, go feed people. There are, especially at this time of year when it's getting cold everywhere, shelters, particularly women's shelters, need supplies. Yeah. Women's shelters, they need socks. They need socks, underwear.
Menstrual products, and underwear. Yeah,
yes.
Those three things.
Those three things above all. And they also, they like it when you give them food, but then they also when they don't have the tools to cook food in. A can of food is kind of useless to them if they don't have a can opener, if they don't have a place to cook that food. And so being mindful of all of those things, and just, it's not hard to take a moment to step outside of yourself and go, all right, well, I'm in a moment myself. This isn't great and this isn't great, but at least I'm here and not there. So let's ball up that gratitude and turn it into something that's productive.
Useful. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's all about forward motion instead of sitting and wallowing, because wallowing does nothing. So
that's right.
And what I always do at this time of year also, I always say to people, I hope you enjoy your holiday, because I truly do. I don't care what your holiday is. I don't care, as long as you're not being a dick. Enjoy your holiday. You put your tree up on November 2nd. That's fine. Enjoy your holiday, whatever that means for you. And I would hope that you would just return that sentiment and pay that sentiment forward as well. Enjoy your holiday. There's no harm in saying that to anybody. There's no war on Christmas. You can say Merry Christmas. You can say Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is. You can individualize, but you can also group together and just say you hope everybody has a happy holiday.
That's right. And there's multiple holidays, from Thanksgiving to New Year's. There's
lots of them.
We have three in a fucking row. Cheer the fuck up. And I would argue Christmas Eve is its own form of holiday.
Sure.
Christmas Day is its own. Like, you can slather this happy holidays out across a broad swath. Shit, I start saying it at Halloween because it's in many ways my favorite one. So
my beloved Low Bar Corral here in Portland, which someday you have to come up and join us and sing along with us.
All right.
We used to call our holiday show Cheer the Fuck Up. So now we just call it Snow Bar Corral, so that we don't offend anybody. But it's all about cheering the fuck up. It is all about reminding yourself that you are allowed joy in your life. because you're not ultimately responsible for all of the world's sufferings. You're not. You're only responsible for how you respond to it. And so if you're, just be a good human.
Figure that shit out today.
Let's do that.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I insist. Tara Dublin is a good human, and you should buy her book.
Thank you.
And follow her on Shitter as long as you're there at
I'm not letting the Nazis run me
Rocks.
off. Fuck them.
I understand.
was there before Elon.
No, I honest to God,
the Nazis run us off.
She's the cellist on the Titanic that is Shitter, and I appreciate it.
Hey, there's always room on the door for you, Hal. I will save you room on the final floating door.
See, that's what they always say, and then they let you slip in. That's how chicks are.
I'll never let go.
Ladies are like that. Nope. They're like, this isn't actually big enough. Bye. Thanks for the locket.
He should have just laid on top of her. More body heat. Why didn't he just do that?
I know, but he was poor.
James.
So.
But he could have jumped up on top and laid on top of her.
Oh, believe me, you wouldn't have had to tell me twice.
I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying.
People are in charge. All right, bye. Guys, have a great week. Love you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. See you after the holiday. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye. There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. Is her picture version of the book. She should create a pop-up version of it. That would be naughty. Stop it. Good show today, and sorry, I thought Bob was on in the second hour because Tara couldn't be, so I'm glad we had both of them. I would love to have both of them on at the regular like that. We'll see if we can get them back. See if Bob can rotate in with us on the regular. That would be great. And be sure to check out Bob Cesca's Patreon. It's patreon.com/Bob Cesca Show, which bobcescashow.com will take you to, I believe, if you go there. So, do a little Christmas gift to everybody. You can join. I'm on mine. You can do an annual membership. I'm fairly certain he can do it as well. So me, Boston Brian, Bob, anybody that you want to be a patron of, and you can support. And you're like, oh, I'll just do it in one fell swoop instead of having it debit every month or something. If that bothers you, that's a possibility. So, it's like a Christmas gift. Hey, I made you a Bob Cesca Patreon person for the year. That kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. I'm just floating ideas to try and help us all, build this thing. Because next year, it's going to fucking matter. It's really going to matter. And so more voices with more reach will be very important, if that's cool. This afternoon, I will see you guys because I'm going to talk about some of what Bob was mentioning, and we've got clips galore. Clips galore, which sounds like that might be my OnlyFans name. Hello, boys and girls. I'm Clips Galore. Anyways, Vicky, thank you so much. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream, give it a thumbs up on your way out the door, and I will see you guys this afternoon for House Sparks Mega Worldwide. Take care of yourselves. See you later. Okay, bye. So much to talk about. So much. This afternoon show is going to be like 5 fucking hours. I just know it.